Oh, hello there, wherever you're listening, however you're listening, joining us on the Reality After Show YouTube channel live or streaming us live on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here today. This is episode 9, I think, of Gabe's Big Move. I unfortunately didn't go and check beforehand, so you're just going to have to take my word for it that this is the 9th episode of Gabe's Big Move. Be sure to subscribe, turn the alerts on for the Reality After Show YouTube channel, and if you want to stay up to date with all the cool stuff that I'm doing, Survivor or otherwise, give me a follow at Gabe Ortiz on Instagram and on Twitter. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a very specific but very important part of not just Survivor. We're going to be talking about it in the Survivor lens, but of reality TV as a whole. And that's the confessional, the psychology, the mechanics, and the impact of confessionals on any given Survivor season, any given Survivor player, any given Survivor episode. And I'm really excited to start breaking this down. In about 15 minutes or so, Johnny's going to hop on with us as one of the great confessionalists in the history of reality TV. We can't not have Johnny on this episode, right? So Johnny Fairplay going to be joining us in about 15 minutes or so. But I want to lay some groundwork before we bring him in and get a lot of his perspective on what confessionals really are and what they do. So let's start with the basics here, right? I mean, what is a confessional? And I know that the answer to that may seem very simple on its face. But what is a confessional? Oh, it's when the player, the contestant, the cast member, whatever it may be, is talking directly to the audience. Well, yes, on its face, that's absolutely true. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. For the question, the answer to the question, what is a confessional? It's a narrative device, right? This is something that producers, showrunners, and people that work in the editing bay for these shows use to narrate to the audience what is happening right now, or what they want you to know what's happening right now. And this is a very important thing. And it's also very unique to reality TV, right? Like shows that are based on scripts or fictional shows, they often don't have confessionals unless it's explicitly part of the structure of the show, something like a mockumentary like The Office or Parks and Rec or Modern Family or something like that. But by and large, the vast majority of scripted shows don't have this kind of narrative device that reality TV shows do. And what this allows producers and what this allows editors to do is to, again, explain to the audience what they want the audience to know about what's happening right now. And in the case of Survivor, there's a large spectrum of that. It can go from something as simple as explaining what an advantage is in the game, right? I mean, very often you'll see a player say something like, I got the knowledge is power advantage, and they'll hold up the note that has the advantage on it. That means that if I know that somebody has an idol at tribal council, I can take that idol for them when I play this advantage. Like it's very, and if you watch the show a lot and you know what knowledge is power is, it's kind of a throwaway scene, right? But if it's your first season ever watching Survivor and you've never seen a knowledge is power advantage, that confessional is critical to you not just understanding what's going on right now in the episode, but understanding the potential implications that this could have over the course of the entire season. Unless it's season 48 and it has no implications, but we'll leave that for another episode. Much love to our sister season. But like, this is a very important narrative device for editors and producers because at its most basic level, it's explaining what the game is. It's explaining what exactly is happening and why what's happening is important. Now, as you get deeper and deeper, it can be something like the editor's giving you a perspective of a strategic move that's happening that comes from a perspective that they want you to have, right? So if the editors and the producers want to ascribe a certain move to a specific player, even though there are multiple cooks in the kitchen for it, they'll have that player explain the move to you, right? So like if John, Tyler, and Candace, random names, all want to vote out Alex, and maybe they all three come up with different parts of the move, or maybe even it's actually Candace's move but they want Tyler to get all the credit for it. Tyler will be the one that explains the move to you. He'll say, we're all putting our votes on Alex, and we're telling Alex that it's actually Tammy that's getting voted out. And now you, as an audience member, have received that information from Tyler, a specific player. And when the move goes forward and is successful, you'll say, wow, Tyler's plan worked out really good there. Even though if you were on the island, you would see that was Candace's move. She came up with everything. But that's the power of a confessional, is that they really mold the entire story of what's going on and gives producers and editors so much room to create the narrative that they want the audience to see, even if it's not particularly truthful. And I'm not saying that that's an inherently bad thing. I can understand how some people might say, like, oh, you're railing against producers and editors. But that's not the case, because, look, their job is to tell a story, right? And, like, look, to go back to our hypothetical group of people, if Candace comes up with a huge move and then is voted out 2 episodes later, and Tyler manages to sit in the final 3 and was a part of that huge move, it might be better storytelling to give that credit for that move to Tyler, because he's going to be a bigger character throughout the rest of the season. Where maybe Candace was not that big of a character outside of this one move that she came up with that she wouldn't have been able to achieve without the help of other players that make it deeper into the game. So it's like building a narrative is a very difficult thing to do, particularly when you're not writing what's happening, when you're just given hundreds of hours of things happening. And from that, you have to be able to come up with a 20-hour story over the course of however many months, 4 months, 5 months. And so these confessionals are very, very powerful narrative tools for the producers and the editors to use. Again, from things as simple as just explaining game mechanics to things as complex as not just explaining strategic moves, but also subscribing credit to those moves to specific characters for the audience to then take, internalize, and carry into the next episode that comes 7 days later. But that's not the only thing that confessionals do. They also act as a kind of psychological release valve for the players who are actually doing the confessionals. And what I mean by that is it is the only time, and I say this from experience, and any player who has played Survivor will agree with this. It is the only time when you can truly be yourself, where you are encouraged to be yourself. And who yourself is changes a whole lot over the course of however many days that you get to play Survivor, right? When you start out, you're hyper and you're excited and you're on the island and it's, oh my God, let's play Survivor and get me in the confessional. I can't believe I'm here and I'm going to cross all these things off my bucket list. And hi, Mom, and hi, Dad. And oh my God, my brother's the biggest Survivor fan and it's why I'm here, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of start to hit a low point when maybe things aren't going the way you thought they would in your first week. And that hunger is really starting to hit you in a way that it's never hit you in your entire life. And the sleep deprivation is getting to you. And maybe you're not winning challenges and maybe you're not getting along with people. And then your confessionals are very frantic and, very doom and gloomy. And, oh my God, everything's falling apart around me. And, oh my God, this is going so bad. How could it possibly be going worse than it is right now? This is the complete opposite of everything I thought it was going to be. Blah, 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 blah. And then if you're lucky enough to make it deep enough into the game, that you settle a little bit. Maybe you win some challenges. Maybe you find an immunity idol. Maybe you develop a meaningful, genuine alliance with somebody or a group of people. And then you kind of settle into the person that you're likely to be for the rest of your time on the island. And your confessionals are calmer, and you're used to having the camera in your face, and you're used to having a boom operator have a mic dangle right above your head. And you're used to the producers that are conducting these confessionals with you. All of a sudden, it's not just this random guy that I know works on the show and he's asking me questions. Now, oh, it's Thomas. That's not a real name. Oh, it's Lindsay. I like doing confessionals with them. we joke around a lot in our confessionals, or they really seem to get me, or they're hoping I can do good, and they want to give me good confessionals. I'm comfortable with these people now. And I encourage people, when you go back and you watch old seasons, or even when you watch new seasons, pay attention to that trajectory, right? Like, pay attention to how people's confessionals change from episode 1 to episode 10. And it's a pretty fascinating thing to kind of fill in the blanks in the back of your head for. That as you're watching this, you're like, wow, they were really hyped up. And, it's not, doesn't take rocket science to figure out why people would be like this, but it is interesting to watch in real time of, wow, this person was really hyper and excited when they first started. And then you see them kind of mellow out and become cool as the season goes on in their confessionals. And you start to see what's really important to them in their confessionals, right? For some people, and this is what I used my confessionals for more than anything, was as a whiteboard session, where obviously the producers aren't going to explicitly help you or give you any kind of explicit direction or tell you if you're right or wrong on your read of the game, but they will bounce ideas back to you, right? You throw out an idea, they'll reframe that idea and throw it back to you. And it just gives you a different perspective on what you're thinking of. So for me, my confessionals were always whiteboard sessions where it was just like, here's what I'm thinking in the game. Here's my read. Here's what I want to do over the next couple days. Here's my long-term goals. And oftentimes the producers would say something along the lines of like, what if this were to happen? What if this were to happen? What if you're wrong about this person? If you're right about this person, what does that mean? And you just bounce these ideas back and forth for the better part of an hour, right? And I would say, in my opinion, the best Survivor players use their confessionals like that. Some people use it as a therapy session, which isn't better or worse. It's just different. And some people use that to just dump all their emotions, all their feelings, all their anxieties, all their concerns, all their worries, and just get it out. Maybe have a good cry while you're doing it too. And there were a few times where I did that. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's what it's there for. It'd be kind of silly to not do that when you're on the show. But some people, that's what it is for them every single time, right? And I go back to this term psychological release valve because whoever you may be, however you may approach confessionals, whatever kind of player you might be in Survivor, like those confessionals are where all those things that are building up on top of themselves in your head, which everybody deals with, again, whether it's strategy, whether it's, emotions, raw emotions, anxiety, whatever it is, that's when you can release all of it. Like, oh my God, I've been thinking of all these different strategic permutations in my head, but I can't really share them with anybody because I don't want anybody to know where I'm going with my game. I get into the confessional, I can just dump. I can open that release valve and just dump on the producer into the camera what I'm thinking. Or it's like, oh my God, I'm having a terrible time out here. I'm hungry. I'm homesick. I'm hot. I'm exhausted. I can't sleep. I don't trust anybody. I'm not getting along with anybody, but I don't want anybody to know how much I'm freaking out. I don't want anybody to see me break down and cry. But then once I get into that confessional, oh, I can just open that release valve and I can dump all those emotions out. And that is very cathartic for a lot of people, both of those scenarios, whether it's emotion, whether it's strategy. That's very cathartic for a lot of people. And one of the other parts of a confessional that I want to get into is the character part of it. That is where your Survivor character is built, is in the confessional. And any minute now, we're going to be joined by our guest for the evening, the owner and proprietor of the Reality After Show YouTube channel, Mr. Johnny Fairplay, who I think was one of the first people to understand that angle of I can use these confessionals to build a character that I want the rest of the world to see. And that is something that really changed the course of reality TV. And I'm not saying that that's all to Johnny because many people came either right around the same time or after him that used confessionals in the same way, but he was certainly one of the first ones. You can't deny that he was part of that initial group of reality TV stars to build up these larger than life characters in their confessionals. And the thing is that you can't really do that when you're just around camp, when you're in challenges, when you're at tribal council. Like, yeah, sure, you can. In theory, you can, but nobody wants to and nobody should because you want to blend in as much as you can when you're around camp, when you're at tribal council, to a certain degree in the challenges, but not so much. You just want to blend in. Like, and I'll ask him when he comes on. Excuse me. But I can't imagine that Johnny wanted to be Johnny Fairplay when he was walking around camp. He just wanted to be skinny Johnny walking around with his curly blonde hair, and I'm making people laugh and people get along with me as long as your name's not Rupert. Because if he was Johnny Fairplay around camp, he's not making it very deep into the game. Nobody wants to live with Johnny Fairplay. No one wants to play with Johnny Fairplay. No one wants to go against Johnny Fairplay. But just Johnny Dalton, that guy is easy to get along with, I imagine. But I'll tell you what, let's ask the guy himself. We got the owner, proprietor of the Reality After Show waiting in the wings, and now he is here. Johnny, how we doing, my man?
What's up? Hold on. Let me. Nope. What's wrong with my camera?
Yeah, you're in like a theater view right now.
I'm in a box.
This is the beginning of the Johnny Fairplay documentary. Nobody knew that, but here he is.
I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, neither do I. You want to leave and come back real quick? I got a few more minutes to riff.
Yeah. Nope. Hold on.
We're going to get Johnny, the Survivor expert, back in just a quick second here. Let me take him off the big stage. Yeah, there we go. And he'll be back in just a couple minutes there, folks. What better, example of Johnny than leaving the people wanting just a little bit more as soon as he makes his appearance? You saw he had a Survivor expert shirt on. I know that he couldn't resist. It's better than his female body inspector shirt, though. Something brutally stuck in 2002. But something that Johnny was very good at, something that Boston Rob grew to be great at, something that Tyson was amazing at, something that Parvati's great at, something that Russell Hantz was arguably the best at, was building up this character in their confessionals and being able to have a relationship with the audience that was exclusive to the audience. Being able to say, hey, look, guys, and I've talked about this before on this show and many others. There are things happening in this game that I'm doing that nobody knows about except for you and me. And those are the best confessionalists. Those are the people who really hook an audience because they bring the audience in on the secret, something that nobody else on the island knows except for you and them. And that is something that cannot be understated. How star building that is in reality TV and specifically in Survivor. I mean, it's everything. And to be able to do that, if you're somebody who has no TV training, no broadcasting training, has never been in front of a camera until you got out to Survivor, is like, I mean, it's a miracle. And there's a litany of people. Some I've named, some I haven't. Robert Hobbs, great shout. Coach is one of those people. We'll see how he is on 50. Let's give Johnny another. Oh, there you go. Out of the box. Just like how you think. The Survivor expert. That's why we brought him on, because he is the Survivor expert in big quotes. Big bold quotes, the Survivor expert. Johnny, how we doing today? I haven't talked to you in a bit, buddy.
Good. I did it big in Chicago.
It looked like you did it big. Johnny was sending me pictures of him on like a skyscraper rooftop in Chicago.
It's my friend's. It's just $25,000 a month rental. It's no big.
Jesus Christ. And what does this person do? You don't have to go into deep specifics, but
Makes a lot of money.
There you go. That's all you need to know. Makes money, and then by making money, makes more money.
Yes. So yeah, no, I love the theme. I'm so glad you thought of me, and I have notes because I
Oh,
heard your breakdown, and there were several things that just jumped out to me. First and foremost, I got to throw this out there. Season 47. I had fun on the podcast making fun of Caroline, but
yeah.
Caroline was an instrument to drive the storyline of how great Rachel was.
Expand on that. I don't
And,
disagree with you. I agree with you, but I'm curious your thoughts.
yeah, all of her confessional, she was like, oh my God, Rachel's the most dangerous person here. Oh my God, Rachel's doing this. Like literally every Caroline confessional was Rachel is great. And I'm just like, I think Rachel might win because we literally have a character whose entire job by way of confessional is to tell you that Rachel is great.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right about, and that really starts as soon as the Tiana episode comes, when Tiana gets voted out because Rachel is the perceived to be sitting duck with the 5 Tukus and 1 Gata in Rachel that are separated during Murgatory, and everybody on Tuku is like, let's vote out Rachel, myself included. I wanted to get Rachel out. And Tiana's trying to push my name. Just as a recap for anybody who doesn't remember what Johnny's referencing, Tiana was pushing my name much harder than I had initially thought until I watched the show. And Caroline was the one person to stop her and say, we want to get Rachel out because of how big of a threat she is. And every Caroline confessional after that episode, to Johnny's point, is about how great of a Survivor player and how big of a threat Rachel is. And nobody else is really talking about that until they get deeper into the game, other than Caroline.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to one of my initial points that I made, which was the confessional is the tool that the producers and the editors use to build the story. Caroline was probably the only person really saying that in her confessionals at the time. So they had to keep going back to Caroline to push this point forward.
Yeah. So that was a big thing. As far as your only time to really be honest. So there is a myth in Survivor that the only time you can be honest is tribal council, and I'm like, bullshit. And I would literally give nothing at tribal council. And Jeff was furious. He's just like, it's like, what are you basing your vote on tonight? I'm like, I don't know, astrological signs. He goes, do you really think that's respectful? I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I understand there's this false notion that this is the only time you can be honest. That's not true. I can be honest in my confessionals. These idiots don't hear me. And they're like, well, what about the airtime? I'm like, I'm the fucking narrator of the season. They will hear what I have to say in the first 40 minutes of the episode. I don't care if I'm not in the last 15 minutes.
I don't think any players, at least modern players, buy into the idea that the only time you can be honest at tribal council. If anything, I think that rule, that guideline, whatever, has actually become the complete opposite, where tribal is the only time that you're really not honest about anything you're saying. Nobody gives anything away at tribal unless you're trying to blow things up.
That used to be, it was the rule for like the first 29 seasons.
Yeah, because I think that what they wanted to build for tribal council is that it's like, this is the therapy session for your tribe, right? Get everything out in the open. And as showrunners, they wanted to have big blowups at tribal because it's the climax of the episode. So like from an editing perspective and from a production perspective, I get that sentiment, but from a gameplay perspective, and as many players have caught on, like I just alluded to, that it makes no sense. It's the antithesis of what you should be doing at tribal council. Tribal should be cagey and trying to get the ball over the end line. Like that's it. Like, we are here. I have a plan. We got about 30 minutes until it's time to go vote. Let me not fuck this up between now and when everybody goes to the voting booth. Like,
let me not fuck this up. And let me hope the 2 or 3 people that are in on this plan not fuck this up.
Yeah, right. Like, that's like, I'm not going to be honest. Like, oh, who do you think you're going to vote for? I'm voting for Johnny tonight. Yeah. Well, why did you just do that? Because this is tribal where we all get to be honest. Like,
yeah.
No, your honesty. Go ahead.
Well, you have like a Donathan who's just like, well, here's my time to drop a truth bomb. And I'm like,
yeah, right. No, yeah,
no truth bombs.
no. It's the worst thing you can do at Tribal, but it's the best thing that you can do in a confessional. And so something that I talked about, kind of teasing you coming on, was the idea that confessionals are tools for their narrative tools for the editors and producers to use to tell the story and explain game mechanics and what's going on in the state of the game to the audience. For players, it's this release valve psychologically to dump all the strategic thoughts that they have, to dump all the emotions that they have that they can't really show around camp. But the third thing, and in my opinion, the most interesting one, is that is where your character is built. That's where John Dalton becomes Johnny Fairplay, is in the confessionals. It wasn't around camp. It wasn't at Tribal. It was in the confessionals that John Dalton became Johnny Fairplay. And you've talked about this a lot, both between you and me personally and also on the show, this idea of one of your goals going out to Survivor was to build the character of Johnny Fairplay. Did you have in your head before you got out there that the confessionals were going to be the place that you did that? Or did you figure that out on the island?
No, I had never seen the show before I was cast. So I remember the first season of Survivor, the first finale, and I watched like maybe 3 minutes, and I'm just like, these people are stupid. I would never do this. And I never watched another episode. And actually Thunder D, who did the Dead Grandma Lie with me, like his favorite show was Survivor, is like, oh my God, you need to watch Survivor. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll talk wrestling with you, whatever, baseball, like I'm good on Survivor. So then, I meet Lynn Spillman at a gas station. I go on eBay. I order every episode of Survivor on VHS and every early show interview in which they explain why they felt they were voted out. And so I studied the game, and they're like, tell us when you get to Boston Rob. Tell us when you get to Boston Rob. Tell us when you get to Boston Rob. I mean, literally every other day I'm getting the call, tell us when you get to Boston Rob. So I finally get to Boston Rob, and I'm just
who was calling you? Thunder D or the show?
Lynn Spillman.
Wow. Okay.
And so it's just like, tell me so I get to Boston Rob, and just like, this motherfucker didn't even make the merge.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is not the template for Johnny Fairplay.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, what do you think of the show? And I'm like, I kind of prefer the real world. Like, I really want to have a 3-way with Trishelle in the hot tub.
Yeah.
Like, of the two options, do you know someone at Buena Murray? Like, that's, I would prefer to do that.
Sure.
Fast forward, I get to Amazon, and I see Rob C jump from alliance to alliance without consequence. I see the fun of the narration. Rob C is the impetus for Johnny Fairplay. I consider Rob C. I don't know if he's the best, but for me personally, top 3 narrators in the history of reality television.
Wow,
I love it.
Do you have the other 2 off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Who?
Johnny Bananas and me.
Okay. 2 Johnnies and Rob.
If I'm not going to toot my own horn, who is?
No. Yeah. No, I mean, you have as good of an argument as anybody. I'll say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, to each their own. I mean, like, everyone has their own taste, and, and leave it in the comments. It's like, oh, go fuck yourself. That's fine. I'm a bad guy. I don't care. I'm a Survivor expert in quotation marks.
So what did you see in Rob C's narration and in his confessionals that inspired or kickstarted this Johnny Fairplay idea?
So when so he would make an alliance, and we're told, through Confessional, his strategy that he's going to fuck these people over. They're not showing him fuck people over, but he's saying snide, fun, cruel remarks about these people before it happens. And then the fuckery happens, and then he comes back and he has to deal with it. And he was like, oh, well, they didn't take that well. It sucks being an idiot, And so it's like, boom, there's the template.
Yeah. So you go out there to Fiji. You have this idea of Johnny Fairplay.
Yeah.
Did it change over the course of your time out there? Like, was the idea that you had when you were watching Rob C, was that it, or was that like a proto Fairplay? And then did it evolve more as you got out there?
Yes and no. So I knew what I wanted to do, and then when I basically do my first confessional, I go by the moniker of Johnny Fairplay. I don't play fair. And so I'm doing this confessional and I'm just like, I want to be the biggest bad guy in the history of reality television, not just Survivor, everything. Literally, they're just like, holy shit, this guy wants to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like Rob C wanted to be the bad guy, or like he's just like, someone's gonna like me.
Yeah. Well, I think Rob C was more like he wanted to be a gamer. He was
Yeah.
like, I get what's going on here more than everybody else on the island,
Yeah.
and I want to revel in that. But I think he did it with the thought of like, people will like this, and many people did, and people will championing me because of it. Where I think you were more like, oh, I want the hate. Like,
I
bring me the
want to
hate.
I want to be a combination of Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, and Andy Kaufman.
Yeah,
that's
sure
what I
enough.
wanted to bring to the table. So those three elements. So and for production to literally lose, they're literally high-fiving each other, and they're just like, did you hear what this kid said?
Like in your confessional?
Yeah. While we're doing it, they're like, holy shit! Like this is game changer.
Yeah. And for I'm curious if the setup was any different. I imagine it probably wasn't. But for people who don't know, the way confessionals are set up is they block off a section of the.
We'll get there.
Okay. So they block off a section of the island and they say, hey, this is where we're doing our confessionals for until we're done, right? They don't give you any time or anything. It's just this is where we're doing confessionals until we're done. So
don't come over here.
Yeah, don't come over here. And even if you do, we're going to have producers roaming around. So make sure that, you don't come over here. You sit down, you have one producer who's asking you questions, who's saying, tell us how you feel right now. Oh, I feel happy. Why do you feel happy? Blah, 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 blah. Who do you want to vote out? Blah, 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 blah. And then you have a cameraman, a support guy, and an audio guy.
Yeah.
So that's how it was for us. Was it the same setup for you guys in Pearl Islands?
Yes. However, so I was on the Drake tribe, and you had myself, Rupert, and Sandra was not the player that she became. I don't think Sandra was great on Pro Island. Sandra won Pro Island, so apparently she's better than me, but I didn't feel she was great. I think Sandra evolved into one of the greatest players of all time. So it's no shade, but I think they saw that cast and they're like, we have Rupert and Johnny Fairplay here, and we have on the other tribe Andrew Savage.
Yeah.
So we got the A team for production.
Sure.
So Maria was my number one producer, and so she'd be like, "All right, Johnny Fairplay, tell us what happened today, and do it in your own." So my whole thing was, today we did so and so, and figure out a funny one-liner to end on. That's how I did a confessional.
Yeah.
And it hit or it didn't hit, or that was how I did it. And for them it worked. So fast forward to the merge, the first day after the merge, we have the B team over there. So they pull me
producers.
Yes, it's the Morgan Tribe production team.
Okay.
So they're like, "Hey, Fairplay, we need you for confessional." I was like, "All right, cool. I'm nice. I'm easy." I ask any producer. Jeff Probst even said in an interview, "I'm a producer's wet dream." I am very easy to work with. Sure. I'm all about like, what do you need? I'll give it to you. In the game, it's just like Fairplay. Like everyone's fucking sitting here doing nothing. Fucking start some shit. Like give us something. Yeah. So that's what I bring to the table. So anyway, they're like, "Fairplay, we need you for confessional." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I go, and so we start walking out, and they're like, "All right, right here is good." I'm like, No. I can literally hear the other people. Uh-huh. And they're like, "It's fine." I'm like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "I say a lot of shit that cannot be heard.
Yeah.
We need to go further out." And they're like, "Fine." And I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah.
So we go further out, and I'm just like, "Okay, well, can you make sure someone's looking?" And they're like, "We know what we're doing." I'm like, "We'll see."
Yeah.
So we sit down, and they're like, "Okay, we need you to say this, this, and this, word for word." And I was like, "Absolutely not." And they're like, "Yeah, you will." And I'm like, "Look, I'm not fucking Jenny Craig Island." That's what we refer to as the Morgan Tribe. I was like, "That's not how I do this shit." And they're just like, "Well, that's how you do it with us." As they're saying this, Krista comes around the corner. She goes, "Hey, Fairplay, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Leaving this fucking confessional."
Yeah.
Got up, walked off.
Out.
Walked out.
Wow.
Like, fuck you, I'm out.
Yeah.
So everyone's on walkie-talkies. They're like, Fairplay's fucking going rogue, blah, blah, blah. They send them and they're like, what? And they're like, what's wrong? What's going on? And they're just like, they will never do your confessional ever again.
Wow. I can't believe they weren't briefed or something, right? You would think they'd be like, "Hey, just let
the other tribe, like go back and watch the confessionals from each. Like, it's night and day. It really is. They are literally, say these words.
And so that's honestly a beautiful segue into the next point I wanted to make is how confessionals operate with different players. And I think those first few days are producers figuring out who needs to be coached and who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Because there are some people that, you know, are great through casting and they get put on the show and like it's obvious why they got put on the show. But then for whatever reason, they get into that confessional booth. It's not a booth, everybody. It's a random part of the island. But, you know, for the simplicity of the conversation, they get into that confessional booth and they just clam up and they're like, "Oh, the camera's here and I don't know what to say. And I want to make you happy, like the producer, and like, oh no." And those people usually just get coached through what they are supposed to say.
Yes.
The producer will be like, "Hey, I need you to talk about why you want to vote Kenny out." They'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't know." Be like, "Well, is Kenny mean to you sometimes?" "Yeah, sometimes Kenny's mean to me." Boom, there's your first clip. And if he keeps being mean to you, do you want to vote him out? And if he keeps being mean to me, yeah, I think I'm going to want to vote Kenny out. Boom, there's your second clip, and you mash those two together, and you have the soundbite you're looking for.
Or they give you the you know, what are you thinking? I'm going to get him out. Who's him? You know, and it's just like, okay, can you piece that together? And literally, you're pulling teeth here, and a lot of people don't get that. Like you know, the big thing in WB, pronouns, pal. We don't say pro. It is what is their fucking name, and a lot of people never get that, and you don't see them give confessionals.
And I all the time in like the first 2 days, and pretty much everybody got this at one point or another. It'd be like, "I think our alliance is really strong." "Who's your alliance?" "Oh, well, like, what do you mean? It's me and the girls." "Who are the girls?" It's me, it's Caroline, it's Sue." "Okay, and who's on the other side of that?" "Everybody else on the tribe." "Who are the other people on the tribe?" TK, Tiana, and Kyle. And then, you know, once you get good at confessionals, and if you're good at confessionals, you pick up on that and it becomes part of your vocabulary pretty quickly. You know, so like for me, I was somebody who, much like yourself, like I was anti-coaching. I was like, look, I'm going to talk my shit. And y'all don't know me now, but you give me a week out here, y'all will know. When Gabe sits down in the confessional, just let him go, and we'll have plenty of stuff that you know, we're going to be good to use. And I won't name any names, but there was that one episode where they did that Survivor Social Hour challenge where it wasn't mergatory, but they split us up into two random teams, and then one team got to go get hot dogs, and the other team had to go home. And everybody from Tuku was on one side, and I was on the other side, and we lost. So I had to go back to camp by myself. And they gave me clearly a new kid, right? It was a guy who, like,
I was probably team is over there with the hot dog.
Right. They're at the social hour, and like for me, they gave me a kid who like clearly had not done a lot of these confessionals before, and so he had an idea of what he wanted this confessional to be, right? And the idea was like, we want Gabe to be sad that he's alone, and everyone's talking shit about him at the social hour, and he's upset about that, and he's lonely, and he's worried about what they're saying.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, so how does it feel to be left out? And I'm like, this is awesome. I was like, I can't tell you how fucking sick I am of these people, dude. I'm so happy that I get like however long I get, that I don't have to look at them. I don't have to talk about them. Like I can look for idols. I can run around the island. I can do whatever I want. Like, this is great. And he was like, oh, well, it kind of sucks that like all your friends are over there and you're here alone, right? I was like, brother, those ain't my friends. Those are my tribe mates that I have to be with. This is great. Like, I can't wait to get out of this confessional because I'm going to go find a second idol. I didn't, newsflash, but
yeah.
You know,
don't you love hot dogs though, Gabe?
One hot dog with no seasoning. And then he was like, yeah, but like, what if they're all talking shit about you? And I was like, Okay, I'm talking shit about them when they're not here. Like, they would be
I'm trying to
idiots
talk shit right now. You're not letting me say it.
right? I would be like, they'd be idiots if they're not talking shit about me. I'd be disappointed in them if they're not talking shit about me. And then like it got to the point where it wasn't a confessional anymore. It was me and this producer arguing about what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, he was like, yeah, but like in real life, if all your friends walked away from you at a party and started talking shit about you, that would upset you, wouldn't it? And I was like, and at that point, I was fully out of confessional mode. And I was like, look, man, like, I was talking to him at this point. I was like, look, in real life, if somebody ran up to me on the sidewalk and put me on my ass and celebrated on top of my unconscious body, I'd have a problem with that. I'd press charges against that person and they'd probably go to jail. But if we were on an NFL field and we were in pads and we were playing 60 minutes of NFL football and they did that, they would be celebrated for it. So as far as I'm concerned, we're between the white lines right now. We're not in normal society.
No.
So I'm not going to talk about this like it's normal society. And at that point, he kind of got it. And he was like, well, then tell us why you're excited to be alone. And then we got to do the confessional. There's actually a deleted scene. If you go look from that episode, they had a whole, it's called Gabe's Alone. And I don't remember what episode it is, but if you look up Gabe's Alone deleted scene, you'll find it on YouTube. And it's me alone on the island. It's the confessional I'm talking about. And now you can go watch it with that behind the scenes. It makes it much more interesting. But you know,
did they show the happy Gabe?
Yes, they showed the very happy Gabe. Yes.
And hence it doesn't make the show.
Hence it doesn't. Yes, exactly. Because Gabe was not allowed to be happy or a friendly guy.
Gabe is not playing along.
Yeah, he was an asshole that only spoke poorly and everybody hated him. But you know, all of that long-winded story to say that sometimes in confessionals, you got to fight production a little bit to be the person that you want to be. And, you know, there's a little bit of that, you know, a lot of bit of that that's warranted if you're good at it. And there's some of that of production kind of wearing you down a bit to, like, you know, wear you down into submission where it's like, you're going to be this person. And, you know, like, you're not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind of guy. But I'm sure, you know better than I do, playing multiple times. A lot of people are that kind of person.
I would say so. Peek behind the curtain, and I don't know how much it's changed, but I will say this: back in my day, Gabe, they picked 2 to 4 people that they wanted and knew would win the game. They picked 2 to 4 people they knew would be an early boot.
Sure.
And the rest are filler.
Yeah. I think that still holds true today. Absolutely.
I think so too. And when I saw your cast on 47 and I saw your background, I'm just like, I think they're Team Gabe. And as a result, I'm Team Gabe. And I will say, early confessional on, I'm just like, I think I guessed correctly. And it is not because you're here on this network and not on another network.
This was something you said on this network. Yeah. You're saying where you and me met.
Yeah, I told you that. I told you that. Like, I sent you a message. I'm just like, call me crazy. I think there's like, I'm looking for this big move.
And here we are. It just came in a way in a time that you never thought.
He was literally just teasing a podcast, folks. Nothing else.
It's not true. I went out to win. I played to win. I played to leave my legacy in Survivor.
Yeah. I mean, and literally, like, let's go back to the confessional. It was all this was a setup for the Tiana vote, and like it's just like, here you go, Gabe, say it, and you're like, eh.
And I didn't say it, which is, you know, and no, like, you're absolutely right, and that's a way to put it that I haven't heard it like that before, but it's very accurate. That it's like all of my confessionals, all of my story was leading up to that Tiana vote, and then when they were like, say it, I didn't fucking say it. And I'll say, and this is massive cope. This is huge cope. So I acknowledge that. Here's my cope acknowledgement before I say what I'm about to say. The producer they gave me after the Tiana vote was also a clear rookie. Yeah. And when she realized that I did not want to do a confessional, that I was upset that Rachel didn't go home, she didn't really push me on it.
Yeah.
And I think that a more experienced executive producer in that moment would have, you know, kind of in a moment realized I needed to be railroaded a bit. Yeah. for one of the guys on our season who never needed to be railroaded would have been able to acknowledge like, oh, he needs to kind of be told what this is right now. Because in that moment, and this is something that like is, probably my biggest regret from being on the show was that for all my TV experience and work and broadcasting and gift to gab or all this and that, I didn't see that moment for what it was.
Like literally, that should have been a Dirty Bird dance confessional.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like,
I should have been
that's the
dancing like
confessional.
T-Bird on Instagram. That's what that should have been, And again, I'm not blaming the producer. I should have acknowledged that. Anybody should acknowledge it, but I hold myself to a higher standard that I really should have acknowledged it, given the person that I am. I think though that again, a more experienced producer in that moment in that confessional would have been like, this was a huge victory for you. Even though Rachel didn't go home, this was awesome for you. Take some pride in it. And the producer I had was like, you and Tiana had a pretty rocky relationship. Does it feel good to see her go? And I was like, nah, I wanted Rachel to go. I wanted Tiana to go tomorrow. And they were like, well, all right, go back to bed now. And I was like, all right, and that's what it was.
It was the move, but it was not how you envisioned the move.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And it's just like, it's like, hey, you did it. It's like, yeah, but I mean, like, I literally dreamt about this move and it's not like that.
Yeah. Yes. And it was something that again needed, I think I needed somebody in that moment. And I wish
it doesn't matter. It's the move.
Like, yes, it doesn't matter. Like nobody at home knows that. Nobody at home needs to know that. This can be your move. And in a way, it was almost like a cooler way for it to happen than what I had envisioned happening. But I digress off of all that. But that's a moment where it's like, these confessionals really dictate the way that things are presented to people. And it's kind of what like the overarching theme of this Gabe's Big Move episode has been, is that the power, all the power, both from a character perspective and from a TV perspective, lies in these confessionals. Like, I mean, I look at Colby's confessional, which is a very popular one in Heroes versus Villains, his final confessional until we get season 50. Like, that's one of the best confessionals in reality TV history. It's fucking great. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that confessional is awesome. And it's awesome because it's something that happens like with this one guy. It's Colby versus Colby in that moment. The whole season was Colby versus Colby. And
Superman suit didn't fit anymore.
Exactly. And that was like almost where he realized it, and you're not going to capture that around camp when Parvati's prancing around camp and Russell's being a troll. Like, that's not going to come out. But in a confessional, it can. And that summarized his entire journey on Heroes versus Villains so well. And it could only happen in a confessional. And so I'll ask you this, Johnny.
Hold on, real quick. Like
please.
Rupert confessional is Rupert in camp.
Yeah.
And like when Rupert is talking to you, I'm just like, can you just fucking talk to me, dude? Like, this isn't a good, like, I know they fucking pulled you for a confessional.
Yeah.
You've already told everybody how great you are. You're banking on at least 1 to 2 other people on saying how great you are. And you're lucky I'm fucking here to say that they don't like me, but they really don't, because I'm the only person saying that they don't like me. I just don't like you. You don't like me. But you talk, I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Well, so it's funny you say that, because when I was getting ready to go out for 47, and me and my dad were like deep, like in the dog days of prep, and the first season he watched back was Pearl Islands, for his run of important seasons to watch to get me ready. And he was like, he came to the real, because he's not like in the community or online or anything. So a lot of people know this, but he came to the realization himself that like Rupert is a villain, despite being on the Heroes tribe. Like, he is a villain, and he really, like, this is my dad's words, but I agree with them. He really bought into like him being on this island. Like, he thought truly in his deepest part of his soul, he was the king of this island that he was on. That
he literally told us daily.
What? Told you what?
It was this is my island. I provide for, this is my, you got, like, literally, here's Rupert every day. Rupert woke up and goes, you guys do nothing. I kill myself every day. How about cleaning? How about doing something? All right, I'm off to go with my private camera crew to go catch the baby shark and the mama shark. And he'd go out for 8 fucking hours with the spear. Burton would go out with 10 minutes with the spear and catch 20 pounds of fish. This motherfucker's gone for 8 hours and brings back 10 aquarium-sized fish.
Rome fish, yeah.
And Rome fish. And then you have Sandra and Krista going, Rupert's the provider. This guy had zero fucking social skills. It was his island. And I'm just like, fuck you, dude.
Well, and I think part of that, though, is kind of like to what my dad was saying, was that everybody had social skills in varying degrees because they got like what was happening. I think Rupert was like, this is my life now. Like, I am king of this island, and this is what I do. My dad's favorite line, I hate to put him on blast like this, but he was like, I think if Rupert was out there for an extra month, he would have started fucking the women on the island. He would have thought,
you're my women.
Yeah, right. Yes. Like, this is my harem, of course. I go and I catch the fish, and this is my island. Why wouldn't I have a harem of women here? You know, like, and every season Rupert is on, he embodies what, like, so that season he's like, we're pirating, and this is my island, and it's my first time out here. And Survivor was still very raw. Like, they had the whole pirate theme, but the theme in that era was still just like Survivor. Like, we're on an island and we're voting people off.
Oh, yeah. Well, they asked me, they were like, what do you think about the theme? I'm like, I don't really care. And we're like, I'm all in.
Yeah, right. And then, like, you know, you get to heroes versus villains, and he's like, we're heroes. Like, we represent good, and we fight for good because we're heroes, and that's what we do. And it's like, you know, for casting, it makes complete sense why this guy was a gold mine, because he was, you know, I mean this in an honest way. I know Rupert loves to watch Gabe move, so I mean this in you know, a very a well-meaning way, but he's crazy enough to fully convince himself that, like, whatever's happening on this show is real life, and that's casting gold. That's TV gold, of course it is. But you know, that is a very rare case of somebody who is the same around camp in challenges and at tribal as they are in confessionals. There's not a lot of examples of those kinds of people. It makes Rupert very unique.
Maybe Russell Hantz.
Really?
I think so. I feel like Russell didn't care if he showed his cards or said something bad. Like, I mean, there's an element of sociopathness to him.
Well, so and I find Hantz to be a fascinating case, because I feel like we never see that a whole lot, do we? Like, I feel like when we see Russell around camp, he's kind of,
I've never played with him. I feel like he can't hold it in.
Well, and I agree with you. And I'm saying from a TV audience perspective, because from the people who played with him, everybody unanimously across 3 seasons, 4 seasons, even if you count Australia, are like, I hate him. I hate him. He's a bully. I would never give him $1 million. He's a fucking asshole. Yeah. But when we're watching it from TV, I feel like the character we're given when he's around camp, especially on Samoa, is kind of this charming, like, snake oil salesman, but you don't hate him. You kind of like to hear him talk. Like, I can't think of too many moments in Samoa or even most of Heroes versus Villains where Russell is shown to be actively antagonistic to people. Now, we know what happened.
You may be correct. I don't know. I just know the after effect, and it could just be a case of I saw it and I'm pissed off. And because there's a huge difference between a player like Rob C, myself, and a Russell, in that I feel Russell is a sociopath, and I feel that he is malicious in the things that he does. I feel Boston Rob is almost a sociopath. I'll be honest with you. I think he's very malicious in the things that he does. Whereas I'm mischievous, and I think that a Rob C is mischievous. And I don't want, like, I mean, yes, do I love destroying people's dreams, much like you said, and you won my heart by saying that. But we don't really, like, in the course of a game when all is fair and all that, yes, but it's just like, I don't want your house to burn down while you're playing the game.
Yeah. And
I
think,
feel like if Russell found out your house burned down, he'd be like, "Hey, I don't know if you heard, but your house burned down while you were here."
yeah, right. You were here and your house burned down. Like, and now I'm gonna snuff your torch. Like, and I think the important distinction you made is malice versus mischief, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, and this was never really shown, and it's whatever. It's not a gripe. I'm at peace with it. But like for me, like I think that they try to portray my mischief as malice. And I think that the way they tried to do that was by never really showing me be friends with people on the island. Where when on the island, and I've said this many times on the show, like I was friends with everybody. Like I got along
so
great. Yeah,
I'm the only person that tells you, the viewer, that everybody hates me. They didn't.
Yeah,
and they're just like Johnny Fairplay, like, because I was Roddy Piper's personal assistant prior to Survivor. They're like, Johnny, and I lived in LA for like 5 years. They're like, tell us a crazy story. So every day I'm just like, oh, well, me and Piper, we went to the bar, and there's so and so for 90210 doing cocaine beside us, and blah blah blah. And they're like, holy shit, tell us more stories. So they didn't hate me, but I'm telling you, the viewer, I'm just like, everyone hates me. I'm the bad guy. Like, oh, everyone hates him. And then it's like Ruby goes, everyone loves me. I'm the provider. Everyone hated him.
But yes, but like, and that's the title of the episode, the power of the confessional. That's what decides what the audience thinks about the players and thinks about the game. It's not what's actually happening. It's what's said in these confessionals, because it's a direct address to the audience. It's here's what you should think. And then the audience thinks that, because that's how it works. And, like for me, it was honestly very similar. Where like I would give, like, I don't want to say lectures, but like dissertations on like the history of Baltimore City when we were just hanging out around camp. Sure. And people loved it. Like I could, like, Teeny, Sue, Genevieve, Caroline, like they were all there. They fucking loved it because it was fun. And I was in a lot of ways putting on a show for them because we had nothing else to do. And like I was that guy a lot, and Saul was that guy a lot. We're like around camp, we would kind of just put on these shows for people and tell these crazy stories and have these wacky debates with each other. And like none of that made air. And I get it because of who they wanted me to be for 47. And it would have been weird. And I've said this again many times before. It would have been weird if it was like Gabe's saying Kyle's a limousine driver and Tiana's this and that, and they're wounded birds. But then around camp, everyone's gathered around looking at Gabe, like smiling and clapping, and like, I get that wouldn't have made sense. But again, it's because they only showed you my confessionals where I was an asshole to everybody. They didn't show around camp when I was nice to everybody. And that's not me like taking out any anger or gripe. I say that again to go back to the theme of the episode. That is the power of it's the most powerful tool that these producers have in their toolkit is the confessional. So I want to ask
the most powerful tool that a player has,
and that a player has
as well.
And,
I mean,
and so
if you can be me, if you can be you, if you can be Rob C, your hand is forced. But on the opposite side of the coin, Danny Boatwright won her first season because she would not give anything in her confessionals.
What do you mean by that? Explain.
She purposely would not say what her moves were, so they couldn't clue the other people as to what her plans were. Because here's another part of the confessional that we haven't dove into, and we'll keep it semi-brief. Is if you're paying attention, if you're an elite player or better than average, but definitely elite, but there are plenty of players that don't. If production's just like, hey, what do you think about Sammy? It's like, Sammy's good. It's like, you don't think Sammy would ever strike against you? It's like, no, we're good. It's like, oh, okay. And it's just like, oh, fuck. Sammy's planning a move against me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they literally tee it up for you. And an elite player's just like, well, fuck Sammy. Here we go. Yeah. Because they have to ask that question because they want you caught with your pants down.
Yeah.
They want that soundbite
of you saying, no, me and Sammy are great. Yeah. And then in reality, then the whole audience knows, oh my God, he has no idea. God, he has no idea. They're going to get his ass. He doesn't even know. And another layer of that is paying attention to the patterns of confessionals.
Yeah. Why do they keep asking me about Sammy?
Or Saul's on his third walk today. What's that all about?
Oh, no, that's another thing. If you don't know, like I was like with me, they're like, hey, we need you. the Drake tribe, they pull me and Rupert like 4 times a day, and they pull the others once or none. And they're like, Fairplay. I'm like, they ran out of tape, battery died. I had to get we waited, and they couldn't get another because like when I came back, I wasn't like I said so much shit. They want me to come back and say more shit.
Oh, so you had cover stories for why.
So I would come back, and I'm just like, we literally waited on a fucking battery for 45 minutes. This is fucking unprofessional.
Wow. So yeah, but that's genius. That's I mean, like no smoke. That's genius. And like something that I noticed probably a little too late in the game, but I was like, everybody gets pulled for one confessional a day. Once you hit the merge, throughout the whole game, but it becomes more important once you hit the merge. Everyone gets at least one. Some days people might get 2, especially if it's not a reward day where the group's separated. If the group's all together, then some days most people, probably everybody, will get 2. Once you get like 3, 4 confessionals, something's going on.
You're either going home or you're sending someone home.
Yeah, right.
And you can, and if you piece it, like if you have a plan to get rid of somebody and it's a blind side, it's you sending them home.
Yeah. And I had realized deeper into the game about like the way that clicked to me was because of my own patterns, where I was like, when I got shit going on, I'm getting pulled 3 or 4 times a day, and Sue's getting pulled once all day. Yeah. So like, and for a bit, because my head's so fucking big, I was like, well, I'm just getting the VIP treatment. I'm the main character of the season. Like, oh my God. And then once we got deeper into the game and I started to run into some of the other main characters of the season, I was like, oh, I got pulled once today. Andy's on his 3rd walk right now. Andy's on his 3rd confessional right now. Andy found something. Andy's trying to pull a move on somebody. When he comes back, I got to go talk to Andy to figure out what the hell is going on, because it's like something's happening. And, fucking Sue and Sierra and Rome have only been pulled once today. So I know there's no point in talking to them right now because they got nothing going on. But Andy and Saul have been pulled 3 times. Well, I got to go investigate. And I don't think I picked up on that until a little too late, until, I was already kind of at the end of my rope without realizing it.
When Sandra and Tawana listened to me and Burton in the dark and heard us talking, the next day they pulled Tawana and Sandra for like 3 confessionals. I'm just like, they fucking heard us.
Really? Okay. So like you realize, you pick up on those things. And there were back to a former point you make, there were a lot of times where producers would be like, because I was trying to work with Saul for like a bit, like a while. I really wanted to work with Saul. And when we go to vote him out that episode, one of the producers was like, hey, like, you and Saul seem to be working together, but you guys don't really have any plans. Like, you voted Sierra out, but like, what comes next for you guys? And I was like, I'm not totally sure. I kind of want to get through the challenge today and like see what happens, because Sierra was our big plan. So we haven't really had a chance to talk about a new one. And the producer said something along the lines of like, what if you're the plan? And I was like, I don't think Saul would do that. I don't think he would do that. And they were like, if someone came to you with a plan for Saul, would you strike first? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know about that. And then, a few hours later, Genevieve comes up to me. It's like, I want to vote Saul out. And so to me, for them, it was kind of a win-win, because it's either I'm like, no, I will not vote Saul out no matter what. That is my ally. That is my friend, blah, 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 blah. And then I vote him out. And then it's like, oh, Gabe's a snake. Or it's like, maybe I would hit Saul before he hits me. And then they can make the narrative of like Gabe's gears are turning to go against this guy who's also perceived to be a pretty big power player in the game. And so they kind of have these like win-win situations where they can bend the narrative however they want, regardless of how you answer these questions. And I find it to be so fascinating. So like, I if you have some, go ahead. I got to run now. So I have one more question for you, but go ahead.
Well, getting to the Danny boat, right? Not getting him anything. Michelle Fitzgerald implemented the same strategy on her Karong win. She wouldn't tell him her plans.
Well, and that's genius. And that's something that I've never thought about before. And that's elite level play, right? Because it's elite to win, but
if your goal is to be this grandiose character, it's kind of like
it's anti
it's
that.
horrible.
It's anti that. But yeah,
Yeah.
if your goal is to win, that's great, because then you're putting yourself in other people's confessionals, which is like, that's layers upon layers of thinking out there. So the last question I want to ask you, I'm upset that I have a prior engagement, because we could do another hour on this. Is if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, I was casted to be on season 50 whatever of Survivor, how should I approach my confessionals? What would you tell them?
I mean, I'm just always a huge proponent of turn it your entire experience out there. Just turn it up to 11.
Yeah.
Wherever you perceive yourself, you control the narrative of who you are. So, and the longer you're there, the more they're forced to tell the narrative that you're supplying. So. Wow. I will say one tiny quick thing. House of Villains, they call, they're just like, hey, do you want to be on House of Villains? I'm like, what's, it's just like, it's 10 villains living in a house, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I filmed the show, and me and Bananas afterwards, they're just like, who the fuck is going to like, no one's going to root for any, like, there's no one to root for. Yeah. And this is where they went 4D chess on the confessional. We would do the confessional, and when we thought the confessional was over, like, when you do a confessional, it's like, I'm great and I'm the best and blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards, you think they're like, okay, I'm like, whew, was that good? Like, did I do okay? Because like, I felt like I kind of forced that. That wasn't really, whatever. And they show that, and they're like, there's the vulnerability that us as a viewer can be like, oh, fuck, he's a human being too.
Yeah.
And I think they did a really good job with that.
And that's something that I think more of these shows should be adopting. Because me and our resident producer, Bobby Goodsby, we're doing this Big Brother show together. I've never watched a single episode of Big Brother until season 27 that's out right now. Those confessionals are ass. They are ass cheeks. It is so bad. I'm going to do a whole rant on everything I think about Big Brother tomorrow, Thursday at like 9:00 or whenever we do the show. Pay attention. I'll put it out there. But
and the guy that does this shitty confessional yelling at the camera in the diary room, that was Adam Klein. I'm like, did they really steal this guy from Big Brother casting?
Your words, not mine. But like, dude, like,
you,
oh my God. Like, I don't know if it's just because it's the first 2 episodes, so that they're all very raw, but like, I can tell, because I've been there before, that it's the producers on the other side.
Yeah.
It's the whoever's on the other side of the camera is just railroading the hell out of these people, doesn't know how to bring their personality out. It would almost be better if they just had a producer in front of the camera, or Julie Chen, and say, this is what's happening in the game right now. And here's what's going to happen next. Let's get back to the house. And then they take it back to the house, because you have these people that are not media trained, are not camera trained, are not microphone trained, giving these like canned one-liners and these canned explanations that sound like it's like they're reading off a teleprompter. It's fucking ass. I can't get down this rabbit hole right now. I'm saving it for Bobby. I'm not going to give it to everybody right now, but it is a travesty that show has been on for 27 years. That's what I think. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. Gabe's Big Move, episode 9, The Power of the Confessional. I might have to do a part 2. I feel like there's so much stuff that we left on the table that's still there to talk about. But Johnny, thank you so much for making some time for me. I really appreciate it, my man. Everybody subscribe to the Reality After Show YouTube channel. Put the alerts on, so whenever we go live or we post a new video, you know that it's happening. Dings right on your phone. You can set it to silent so it doesn't even bug you. Follow Johnny on all the social media at Johnny Fairplay. Follow me on all the social media at Gabe Ortiz. We'll be back next week, back to our regular scheduled programming on Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. Can't wait to see you there.